On this week's episode of Inside Iowa, check out a new social media class.
See how Calvin Hall was moved across campus back in 1905.
Meet some members of the Iowa Juggling and Circus Club.
Learn about the art display at the State Hygienic Lab.
See how the Children's Hospital was prepared to handle a rare kidney disorder.
And get a recipe for watermelon salsa that you could use the next time you go tailgating.
Inside Iowa starts now.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Inside Iowa, your weekly guide to learn more about the University of Iowa, its students, faculty, staff, and alumni. I'm Lauren Moss.
And I'm Eric Dawn. Each week we'll share with you the stories from the university and the impact it has on the community.
Did you know the University of Iowa offers a course over social media called Social Media Today? Students learn about the history of the medium and how to effectively use it as a tool for communication.
The class recently received general education credit and is available for any student to take, which can benefit students from all majors.
And while most students have been using social media for a long time, they may not realize how to properly use it as a tool to promote and market themselves and their work.
Which is why the university has taken steps to ensure its students are prepared as they enter the digital world of social networking and marketing.
Social media is everywhere, and it impacts the way we communicate. There are over 2.5 billion people using Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Every second, 2 new members join LinkedIn. Every minute, 72 hours of video are uploaded onto YouTube. Social media isn't just affecting how we communicate with friends. It's changing how we receive information and how we promote and market ourselves. The University of Iowa and the School for Journalism and Mass Communication realizes the impact social media has on our everyday lives and offers a course called Social Media Today.
The class is called Social Media Today, and it's a unique Gen Ed course. Just recently received Gen Ed certification. What the class is a combination of history of social media across various platforms, but it's also a chance for students to engage professionally and do real work in social media that will give them a leg up in a very competitive marketplace.
The class is for more than just journalism students. Every job industry can benefit from using social media.
We go beyond the University of Iowa journalism undergrad student to try to get as many students in there as we can. I would love it if business students, for example, were to be able to take it to learn skills that they would need to enter into a very competitive marketplace. We like to talk to science students about medical and science blogging and the reasons why it's very necessary in this information marketplace. I basically want to talk to anybody that's interested in learning how social media can not only help them professionally, but also just how media has changed our conversation and how they can be a part of it.
The class examines the history of social media and its importance on networking and promoting students' work.
That class did teach me a lot about what the importance of social media has become today. It took me to creating a LinkedIn profile, something I never had before that class, and understanding how to use my Facebook.
It's important for college students, regardless of their major, to understand how social media can be a tool for promoting the work they're doing on campus, and not just on Facebook.
It's called Social Media Today, and it's called that for a reason. It's not called Facebook Today because it's not about Facebook or Twitter. It's about everything. I didn't know about Pinterest before I took this class. You just learn about all these new players in the market, and you try to understand how to use that to your own advantage. I'd never thought about even putting my stuff on Facebook or trying to promote it. And what this class really teaches you is a very aggressive way of promoting your stuff, getting your name out there. This class not only compelled me to put my stuff out there, but it taught me how to put my stuff out there in all spheres for everyone to see. And I'm sure that increased the number of views I got.
People have a fundamental need to communicate, and social media is another form of communication, and it's changing the ways we interact with one another.
What's going to come out of this is really an appreciation and understanding about why people do that, ranging from taking videos and pictures of their cat, their food, their toes, whatever you want, into something that's greater about human connection, business connection, enterprise, free speech. We're going to talk about all these different concepts, and something that's as disparate as, say, a blog post or a Tumblr feed all of a sudden relates to how people try to communicate, to interact.
and all college students can benefit from understanding how to communicate and how to use social media.
Let's face it, some of us don't know how to use social media to our advantage. Some of us are putting things out there today that will come back to haunt us in the next 5 years. I can totally see, even if you have no interest in, tweeting every day or tweeting about important things or writing articles that you can tweet about or making videos that you can, put on Facebook, you at least can understand that things that you're putting out will come back and haunt you.
Coming up, see how Calvin Hall was moved from the Pentacrest.
And get to know more about the Campus Juggling and Circus Club after the break.
International programs at the University of Iowa and the Hawkeye Network present World Canvas. World Canvas is hosted by Joan Kerr before a live audience in the Senate chamber of the historic Old Capitol Museum on the campus of the University of Iowa. The series explores topics that are international in scope and central to our understanding of how individuals fit into our global landscape. Watch World Canvas on the Hawkeye Network.
Tradition.
Ambition.
Exploration. Inspiration.
You feel it when you step on campus at the University of Iowa.
The energy and pride of students inspired by our history.
And excited about our future. When you join the Hawkeye family, you're a part of it all.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it. Be a Hawkeye.
Today, Calvin Hall is home to the Office of Admissions and the Registrar's Office. But back in the summer of 1905, Calvin Hall was known as the Science Building.
The entire building was moved from the Pentacrest to Jefferson Street, and McBride Natural Sciences Building took its place.
Officials wanted to maintain a neoclassical look around the Pentacrest, so rather than tear down the then new building, they decided to simply move it.
Thomas McBride and Samuel Calvin made sure the building was preserved and moved across the street, and summer classes continued throughout the move.
Calvin Hall was originally located where McBride Museum of Natural History is now. However, shortly after it was made, university officials decided on a neoclassical design for the four buildings that are centered around the old Capitol, also known as the Pentacrest. Calvin Hall's brick appearance just didn't quite fit with their design. But thanks to science professors Thomas McBride and Samuel Calvin's requests, the building was not destroyed.
So what do? Do you tear down a 20-year-old building? I don't think so. What you're going to do instead is move the thing across the street. And that's exactly what they did during the summer of 1905. Calvin Hall, as we see it today, is actually situated 180 degrees around from its original orientation so that it is now facing Jefferson Street from the north.
Sometimes students have to take summer school, but for students in 1905 Calvin Hall, which was then known as the Science Building, it was a slightly different experience.
Classes continued to be held in the building. You couldn't do that today, of course. It would be very unsafe, and there would be, I'm sure, a lot of liability issues attendant. But in 1905, the firm that had agreed to move the building also assured the university that it could still be a functioning building, even in transit.
Throughout the slow and careful move, Calvin Hall didn't suffer a crack. Over 100 years later, Calvin Hall is still located on Jefferson Street, just north of the Pentacrest, and is still standing strong.
You save a perfectly fine building. The natural science faculty are happy because they get to keep their original facilities. And aesthetically, the central campus becomes much more attuned to the overall plan of having this, classical, consistent look.
Well, Eric, I'm glad I didn't have to go to class while they were moving an entire building.
Certainly it would be a distracting environment.
Students at the University of Iowa have a wide range of skill sets, and there are plenty of organizations to encourage them to share their talents.
Inside Iowa met with some members of the Iowa Juggling and Circus Club and discovered both the challenges and joys of juggling.
Well, I first learned when I was 8 or 9 years old. In that winter, I was snowed in, and I don't live by any neighbors or anything, so I got really bored. I'd already played in the snow once, so I decided to teach myself to juggle that afternoon.
Isaac Rockefeller, a senior studying biochemistry and microbiology at the University of Iowa, discovered his own passion for juggling and decided his talent wasn't something he wanted to keep to himself. He is now the president of the Juggling and Circus Club and has as much fun teaching new members as improving his own skills.
But I've taught about 60 or 70% of the people that are in it, so pretty much we teach people that come and are interested, especially at org fairs, I would say. Do you want to learn how to juggle?
So I agreed to learn.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do with one ball is throw it the other hand. Remember first rule is don't freak out. What up?
The Juggling Club has a wide range of skill sets, including beginners just like me. These two first-year students were happy to get their hands on some props and see what kind of tricks they were able to learn.
I started off not being able to do anything, and now I can get like maybe 3 or 4. Not super well, but I'm getting there. It's cool, I guess. It's like impressive, like not many people can juggle. It's like very like hand-eye coordinated, I guess.
I learned for myself that it does take serious hand-eye coordination, and Hannah Zaprutsky agrees too.
I picked rings because I tried with like every single ball that they had and it like didn't work at all. So Isaac had faith in me and he was like, here, I don't think I've ever done this with anyone, but why don't you try the rings and maybe you can do it with that. And I like kind of can.
As for the more experienced jugglers, Isaac and fellow juggler Jeremy Swist are able to show their skills and juggle together, playing volleyball, trying some new tricks, and messing each other up.
It improves your coordination. It's also a good social activity if you, pass the balls and clubs around, and yeah.
So yeah, there's no real barrier to entry. We'll teach you, and if you want to learn other circusy things, we're probably the best outlet you've got at the university. I do some handstands as well. Yeah.
The University of Iowa Juggling and Circus Club is only one outlet on campus where students can show their talents.
But for Isaac and this club, the best part is sharing the joys of juggling.
Thanks, guys.
That looks so much fun. I think I'm going to have to try that sometime.
I think I could juggle 2, but the third one means I have no chance.
It's definitely a lot harder than it looks. Coming up after the break, meet the artists behind the display at the State Hygienic Lab in Coralville.
And get a great salsa recipe for your next tailgate. All of that and more when Inside Iowa returns.
Performing Iowa, the University of Iowa's finest in music, dance, and theater performances. Go behind the curtain and see why the University of Iowa is a hub for artistic expression and creative production. Performing Iowa, each week only on the Hawkeye Network.
We have a certain way of doing things. You'll see it in the determination of our students, in the classroom and on our fields, in the collaboration among our faculty that lead to great innovation and change, in the vision of our writers, artists, and doctors, bringing the world to Iowa and Iowa to the world. It's the Hawkeye way.
May, when Basabe has been very active on the offensive glass.
And there it is. Devin Marble with that score joins his dad Roy in the 1,000-point club here at Iowa. The first father-son duo in Big Ten history to accomplish that feat. He just made history. Father and son, each in the same exclusive club in Iowa basketball history.
Next time you're out and about at the Research Park in Coralville, be sure to stop by the State Hygienic Lab and check out the amazing art display in the lobby.
Seattle-based artist Nori Sato was commissioned for the design, which is made from glass and takes advantage of the abundant light entering the building.
I'm Nori Sato. I'm an artist. I live in Seattle, and I've been commissioned to make an artwork for this new facility. Most of the work that I do is very contextual, so it's made to fit the particular site and the facilities that I work in. I did a piece in Ankeny for their sister laboratory there, and I think because of that, they thought I might be a good artist to consider for this particular facility. I wanted to use imagery and to make a piece that would work with the mission of the lab. But then also I try to come up with a format and a form that will go into the particular space. I have decided to work in glass just because the lobby has so much great light coming into it, and there's just a lot of glass surfaces here. And so it made a lot of sense to use that. And start with the idea of the Petri dish, kind of the round dish that's so ubiquitous, that's used in a lot of the research, and use that as the form, and also kind of thought of it as a portal or a way of looking through things, and then made a work that incorporated this idea of a ribbon that kind of connects all these things together, which is also somewhat reminiscent of the DNA strand. It sort of has a double meaning. It's not necessarily the double helix, but it could be looked at in that way. And then incorporating within that these kind of portals into the various aspects of the research. I kind of worked in between art and science, I think, in those. What I developed was a series of glass pieces that was a combination of reflecting what the laboratory did, the whole idea about looking and research and not always being able to tell what you're looking at and not always being able to see things clearly and looking at things from a variety of different distances. I worked from computer files, so I made many of these on the computer. They translated those to silk screens. And they silk screened the main red and blue image on to the glass, and then they fired it. And then they brought it back to the studio, they sandblasted it, and then the circles were all individually handmade. The circles were inspired by images that the lab people work with, things that are really small that you might look at in a microscope, like bacteria or viruses or mold, and other things that are really big, like scenes or clouds or equipment. And so there's this kind of micro, macro thing, and when you look at it, everything, the scales allow you to kind of play back and forth like this. And I really love the way that it just sort of is animated, I think, by what goes on the other side of the glass, by the cars that are out there and by the, trees and plants, and that the view through it is going to change through the seasons too, and that the relationship between the outside and inside will be really interesting. I mean, in a way, I feel like this whole lobby, because it's so white and clean is kind of like a gallery space, and I'm able to have my artwork here really featured. I'm always interested in how people will actually engage with it, because I think what I'm interested in is that there isn't a single interpretation of it, that there are a lot of different ways that you can kind of look at it and read it. A lot of science is actually about interpretation, and the scientists are always interpreting data in a lot of different ways. So in a way, I think art has that same interpretive aspect to it. I think there's a good relationship between art and science in that way.
Coming up next, meet a father who donated one of his kidneys to his son.
And meet an Iowa tailgater with a delicious recipe for watermelon salsa. Inside Iowa, we'll be right back.
For more than 100 years, the University of Iowa community has been waking up to the Daily Iowan. Today, it's the largest newsroom in eastern Iowa, and now you can see the news every night on Daily Iowan TV. DITV, your news, sports, and weather source for the University of Iowa, and is produced by University of Iowa students and presented by the Hawkeye Network.
Welcome back. After Trey Hamilton was born, nephrologists sent him to the University of Iowa Children's Hospital to have his kidneys examined.
It was further discovered that he had a rare kidney disorder called Denny's-Drash syndrome, which is a genetic mutation that causes cancer in the kidneys, usually within the first few years of their life.
There are approximately 500 cases in the U.S. each year, and in Trey's case, he was in need of a kidney transplant.
Trey's dad, Travis, immediately knew he wanted to be the donor. And when baby Trey was big enough to handle a transplant, doctors gave him his father's kidney.
Trey is quite the special kid. He was born on October 18th, 2007, and through a bunch of testing, the nephrologist in Des Moines realized that there was something more wrong. He suggested that we transfer over to the University of Iowa where there's some more specialties.
Trey is a young fellow that has a syndrome called Denny's-Drash syndrome. And this is a syndrome that's caused by a genetic mutation in one of the kidney developmental genes. The kids will invariably develop a certain type of kidney cancer by age 2.
The first thing that came to my mind when we found out that he needed to have a transplant was that I wanted to be the donor.
We went ahead and actually worked with the family and did a preemptive kidney transplant on Trey while he was about 20 pounds.
Then Dr. Brophy referred us to Dr. Alan Reed. Wow, that guy's amazing, amazing. He was confident and sure that he could do it. Then in March of 2009, that's when we finally reached the plateau for the weight, and all things were a go. And on March 26, 2009, he had his transplant. Trey's 5 years old now, and he's doing awesome, so I think it's a testament that all the doctors, all the nurses did an excellent job.
Long-term wise, I think Trey will do very, very well. And if he takes care of his kidney when he becomes a teenager, I think his kidney will last a good long time.
I received top-notch treatment just like he did. It was difficult, him being in one part of the hospital and me being in the other, but anytime I asked, the nurses were more than willing to load me up on a wheelchair and take me up to see him. It was amazing. I mean, I couldn't have had any better treatment.
What a great story. Next time you decide to head to a Hawks game and tailgate, be sure to try one of the recipes in a new segment we have called Kinnick's Kitchen.
Inside Iowa's very own producer, David Gamrod, hit the streets at historic Kinnick Stadium and met with Hawkeye fans and got some great tailgating recipes.
This week we catch up with Mike, who works at the College of Education, as he shows off his watermelon salsa, a perfect snack for a hot summer day.
And it is as good as it sounds, made from watermelon, cilantro, red onions, jalapenos, and lime juice. It's the perfect blend of sweet and spice. And best of all, there's always chips at a tailgate.
Okay, on a hot day like today's game, it's hard to find people who are doing a lot of grilling. But I ran into Mike, and Mike here works at the University with the College of Ed, and I heard that he had watermelon salsa. Think about that, watermelon salsa. I had to try it. So Mike, tell me a little bit about this watermelon salsa, how you got the recipe, and tell me a little bit about how you made it.
Well, I actually found this when I was in Wisconsin. We were going up to a Jimmy Buffett concert, and people that we were with had this during the summer, and it was fabulous. And it's kind of a cool thing. It's, you know, as he said, it's cold but yet warm. So it's got watermelon in it. It's got cilantro. It's got jalapenos in it. Some little red onion. Some lime juice. So it kind of mixes the cool with the warm. We put it in a bowl to keep it chilled here tonight.
I mean, come on, you gotta look at this. Watermelon, a staple of all summer activities. Salsa, the ultimate party dip.
That's right.
I heard watermelon salsa. I had to immediately stop. You mind if I
Go for
grab
it.
out here? All right, I gotta
By all
make sure that I grab myself a piece of watermelon and a piece of salsa. Now this looks absolutely fabulous, and I cannot wait to try this. This is my first time having watermelon salsa. Oh.
It's good. All right. Well, kick.
Hold on. This is
Don't take all of it. But get in there again.
I want to show you guys this. You got the cool, crisp, sweet watermelon mixing with, you can taste the cilantro, you can taste the red onions. It's sweet, it's a little spicy. I would highly recommend that on your next tailgate, especially if it's going to be a hot game like today, you put some watermelon, put some salsa together, and you eat it. Enjoy.
Good stuff, huh?
Well, that does look delicious. I'm going to have to make some the next game I go to.
Absolutely. Just watching that makes me hungry. That wraps up this week's episode. I hope you got to learn more about the University of Iowa.
Be sure to tune in again next week for more great stories from around the campus. For Inside Iowa, I'm Lauren Moss.
And I'm Eric Dawn.
See you next week.